What is up, YouTube? Just a quick thought I had the other day about. I was thinking about Junior Dos Santos. I hadn't seen him fight in a while. I guess the last time he fought was December. So, and I missed that fight. So last time I saw him fight was actually 2014, a full year before that. So I missed that Alistair Overeem fight, but I'll look it up later. But the one thing I was looking at Junior Dos Santos and wondering, I had the thought go through my head. Now that Cain Velasquez has lost the belt to Verdun, and Verdun obviously doesn't want to fight anybody but Cain Velasquez because stylistically he's a horrible matchup for Cain Velasquez. Um, but the question came to me: can Junior Dos Santos be heavyweight champion again? And I was thinking about it, and I was going, well, man, it would depend on. To me, it would depend on his competition, like who he gets at the heavyweight division. I'm surprised he lost to Alistair Overeem, um, but I guess that I hadn't seen the fight, so I have to look and see what exactly happened in that fight. Because stylistically, I would have thought somebody like Alistair Overeem would have been a decent matchup for him. But looking at the top 10 rankings, I'm like, well, he's most of these guys. I mean, he's got, except when it gets up here. He, in my opinion, Verdun. They haven't updated the MMA Weekly needs to get on updating their top 10 because you can't have Cain Velasquez ranked number one and Verdun is the current champion. So obviously somebody dropped the ball on that one. Maybe I should look at the UFC. It's kind of biased though because it's only UFC fighters. Although if I don't know if they had any UFC fighters on the other one that I was just looking at, but anybody that wasn't a UFC fighter on there. But we'll just look at the UFC one since he fights in the UFC, so that makes the most sense. But he's already got a win over Frank Mir. I think he has a win over Mark Hunt. Yeah, he's got one over Mark Hunt too. He beat Roy Nelson. I don't think he's fought Travis Brown. I don't think he fought Olasky or Rothwell. Lost to Overeem, but for me, it would depend on who you match him up with. In my opinion, if you match him up with Verdun right now, I'd say if you match him with Verdun right now, I think he would win, and I do. But it's two sides to that story. Different guys respond differently to losses. It all depends on the fighter. I will say the last time he lost, he bounced back pretty good. He beat Steve Miocchi, and that's not an easy fight for anybody. But I think I remember seeing the fight. I think I remember it being pretty goddamn close. Like I thought at times it was like I was thinking, I think Steve Miocchi is getting the better of this. If I remember it right, I have to go back and look at it. But he seems to bounce back all right from losses. He lost to Kane. He beat Mark Hunt, which was a good matchup for him. And Mark Hunt was no pushover. Lost to Kane. He come back and he beat Steve Miocchi. He lost to Overeem. And he has a win over Verdun. He knocked Verdun out before. And stylistically, he's a good matchup for Verdun. See, Kane's a bad matchup for Verdun. I mean, that's a good matchup for Verdun versus Kane. Dos Santos versus Verdun is a bad matchup for Verdun. And the reason I say that is you got a guy who's world class in jiu-jitsu, decent striking, really tall, and good reach. Dos Santos, but he fights kind of flat-footed. He stands right in front of you. He keeps his hands up, kind of high, doesn't move around a lot. Stationary target. That's perfect for somebody like Dos Santos. Dos Santos likes fighters who stand still in front of him, don't do a lot of moving. He's really super, super hard to take down. Cain Velasquez had a really difficult time trying to get Dos Santos down. And he's really, really, and you can just look at Dos Santos too. He's a big athletic guy. He's got really strong hips. He's going to be difficult to take down. And even if you can get him down, he looks like he's spring right back to his feet, which is what he does most of the time. Verdun's a good matchup for Junior Dos Santos. If Verdun staying still in front of Junior Dos Santos, Dos Santos likes to kind of like play fight with you a little bit and then load up a bomb. Like he'll flick a few punches out there in front of you just to measure you up, see if you move, how you reacting, and then he'll load up a big winding bomb coming up behind it. If you're not responding to them feints, he's got a bomb coming behind him. And he's measuring you up. If you if you're not moving, you're not fainting, you're not responding to the feint, here comes the bomb. Boom. And I don't think Verdum has altered his striking enough to avoid that. I think right now if you put him up against now that fight was years ago, that was back in 2008, but I think still, he still has that tendency like when he fought Kane, it was a good fight for him versus Kane. Kane don't have really good knockout power. he didn't have the cardio at the time to strike with the overwhelm Verdum with his striking. And even his striking, he's not very tall, he's not very long, he's not very powerful. And Verdum just kind of kept the jab in his face, kept him back. And, finally when Kane got tired of eating punches, because he was eating all the punches on the outside because he couldn't get on the inside, and he was moving his head around a little bit, but he wasn't moving his head the proper way to get on the inside. He was moving the move, but he's still eating a lot of punches. He wasn't moving when he should have been moving and slipping when he should have been slipping. Dos Santos is not going to have that problem. He's going to get close to you. He's going to measure you up, and then he's going to throw a bomb. That's a bad, bad matchup for Verdun. And he's super, super powerful. Like, if he hits you, it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt bad. So I think now you match him up right now with Verdun, he could win. I don't think he can beat Kane. Now if he'd fought Kane in Mexico, oh, he would have destroyed, Cain Velasquez at 7,000 foot altitude, because the only way that Cain Velasquez beats Dos Santos is with his cardio, by pushing a pace that, Dos Santos just can't follow. But you got him, so I don't see him beating Cain Velasquez if Cain gets back to the belt. He's already beat Steve Aoki, but it was a close fight, and Steve Aoki is just getting better and sharper as time goes on. So that if it was close then, and you're not getting better and sharper, and he's getting a whole lot better and sharper, well, the next time you meet, it may be a different outcome. I don't know about that one. Overeem, he already lost to. I have to watch the fight and see how that went down or what happened exactly. Let's see if he got TKO'd in the second round, so I'll watch it and see what happened. But I think he can still be champion again if he gets the right fights lined up in front of him and makes the right moves. He can get back to the belt. The question is Kane gonna get back to the belt? And a lot of people are betting their money on Cain Velasquez getting to the belt because he wasn't gonna fight at altitude. And this is the thing with the Cain Velasquez fight with Verdun. Everybody made excuses for Cain Velasquez, including myself. Kane made no excuses for it. But when I went back and looked at the fight, I did notice one key thing here. The fight was not a blowout up to the point that Kane ran out of gas. That makes me go, even if you put him in Nevada, in Vegas, like sea level, and put him up against Verdun, I don't know that he's guaranteed to win this fight. Because the one thing I noticed is I was like, well, that fight was pretty even before Cain Velasquez ran out of gas. Up until the point that now when he ran out of gas, of course he fell way behind and then he got finished. But it wasn't like he was just destroying Verdun up to that point. Then he got tired, and then he got his butt whooped. That's it. Like, and people say, well, he ran out of gas. Okay, well, let me tell you what a fight. Let me explain this as simply as possible. Let me tell you what a fight looked like when somebody ran out of gas. Go look at Rumble Johnson when he's fighting welterweight. Go look at BJ Penn when he was fighting lightweight. That's what it looked like. You destroying the guy until you get tired. Then you get then they whoop your ass. When you fighting the guy and y'all going tit for tat and you whooping him a little bit, he whooping you a lot, and then you get tired, then you get nothing but whooped. That's not exactly, oh, I ran out of cardio. That's the reason I got. No. Your ass was getting whooped long before the tank ran empty. The thing, unless you got tired on the walk from the backstage to the cage, your ass was getting whooped, when you had gas in the tank. Now, he was giving some ass whooping back, but he was getting whooped a little bit too. So, that the whole, premises of, and I respect Cain Velasquez for not making excuses like a lot of people did, including myself, for what I'm saying. Like, well, because I've been at 7,000 foot. If you've never been at 7,000 foot sea level before, it's hard to explain what that feels like. Like, I went to the Grand Canyon once, and I don't know the sea level. I think it's different at different parts of the Grand Canyon, but let's see. Elevation. $8,000 feet. Ooh, good grief. 8,000 feet. So I've been to the Grand Canyon once, and I got out the car and I walked probably 100 yards one way and 100 yards back the other way, and I was out of breath. At the time, I was training jiu-jitsu. I ran at least once a week, and I was weightlifting, so I was in decent shape, decent cardiovascular shape. I could hold a good pace running. I did grappling, so I had a good, that's a whole different kind of cardio in itself. But I got out of my car, walked 100 yards one way, I was out of breath. So it's hard to explain what that feels like. Like, even if you're in shape. And I saw people, like leaning on benches and sitting down looking like they was about to have strokes and heart attack because they were old and out of shape. So it's hard to explain it. Trying to fight at that level, like your gas tank's gonna empty quick. So for Cain Velasquez, I understand like his tank went dry quicker than he was used to. But that being said, the fight was competitive from the beginning of the bell to the end when he got guillotined. So you can't tell me like the reason I lost is because I got tired. Unless you woke up tired, walked to the cage, got tired, or the touch gloves made you tired. You was getting your ass whooped before that. Yeah, and the problem I have with fighters when they make excuses like that, like, look, you gotta recognize the reason. Nobody I've ever heard in MMA who doesn't recognize the reason they lost comes back and beats the guy. People that make excuses for themselves, they come back and get another ass whooping. You lose a fight I give you a good example. Frank Mir lost to Brock Lesnar years ago, and he said, "Oh, the reason I lost was because Brock Lesnar weighed 260 whatever pounds, and he cut weight to make the heavyweight limit, and I only weighed like 240." And I'm in my head, I'm like, that's not the reason you lost this fight. You lost this fight because you got out wrestled. He was able to control you, push you up against the cage. You didn't have an answer for that. You got taken down, and you didn't have an answer for that. That's why you got beat. And when guys don't recognize why they got beat, they often don't correct the mistakes that they need to correct. So then you go gain 20 pounds of muscle and go, okay, I'm ready now. He don't outweigh me by as much. It's going to be a different fight. No, it's going to be the same fight, except you're going to be heavier. That's it. So for Cain Velasquez, I hope he recognizes the technical aspect of why he lost, not just I ran out of steam. Look, it ain't just you. I'm hoping he's just saying that for the camera in order to justify, because you do have to say some stuff for the camera to justify your rematch. You can't just say, well, he whooped my ass, I'm gonna try to beat him this time, because then people are like, well, why? What makes you deserve an instant rematch? If you got whooped because you wasn't good enough, then go show us that you're good enough. So often not to justify rematches, the UFC will come out and make excuses for people and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm saying this. I hope he's saying that for the camera, but I hope he realized that he goes, okay, one, my head movement was there sometimes, but I was still eating a lot of jabs. Two, I didn't get on the inside like I should have. Three, when I shot the takedown, I shot it sloppy. I didn't stay high. I could have just pushed him up against the cage and laid on him first, and beat him up a little bit on the cage before shooting a sloppy takedown, and so on and so on. I hope he looks at the technical aspect of how he can get better and how he can use some footwork and some movement, how he can work the body on Verdun. Verdun keeps his hands real high and awkward. You can definitely work the body on him, and he definitely is. He's looking for an uppercut. He's very susceptible to either over. When you stand up erect like that, overhand right, it should be the first thing. You come out with a guy, he's standing straight up, not hunched over, not tucked in, not with his hands in front of him. First thing you should do is start with an overhand right. But, that's for a different discussion. Hopefully, he recognizes that, look, it wasn't just the fact that I ran out of gas. Because my ass was getting whooped before I ran out of gas, not just after. It wasn't like I was BJ Penning this the first round, and then I got tired and got my ass whooped. No, your ass was getting whooped in the beginning. So hopefully he recognized that and he comes back and, I kind of got off topic of Junior Dos Santos, but I want to see that matchup, and I like Cain Velasquez, so I hope he comes back and wins the belt. So, but I'm glad that Verdun got to get to the belt. He's been at it for a lot of years, and he's had a lot of ups and downs, and he seems like he finally put together some things that need putting together and got on track. So I think it'll be a good fight for him. But I can't see Verdun. Since we're talking about heavyweights, I can't see Verdun holding on to that belt against all the upcoming. When you start looking at this list of people for Verdun, you start going, okay, he ain't beating Steve Aoki. Overeem has a win over him. Rothwell would cause him problems. Rothwell would cause him problems because he's just so big, and he's big in the right places. Like, when you're doing jiu-jitsu, like, people don't realize, like, you take somebody like Roy Nelson. Doing jiu-jitsu on him makes it really, really difficult. You can't wrap your legs around him and close him unless you're really, really tall. Now, Verdun might be taller enough. I don't know what. Let me look at his height and weight. He might be taller than it, but a lot of times they don't realize, like, being fat. Sometimes he's 6'4", so he probably can get his legs around Roy Nelson. I don't know if he's got to win over Roy Nelson, a decision, but the fighting big fat guys like that, like Ben Rothwell, it would be more difficult than you think. They're really big in the mixed session. when they're sitting in your guard, all their weight is really, really low. So sweeping them is really difficult. Submitting them is going to be really difficult. Controlling their body the way you want to control is really difficult. I don't think Verdum have a problem with that because in all reality, Rothwell, Verdum's a black belt, a world class black belt off his back, which is rare in heavyweight. And matter of fact, it's only probably like two of them walking the planet in the UFC, and that's him and Frank Mir. But it does prove more difficult, and it can surprise guys like what it's like having a guy that big, who's big between his shoulders and his hips, on top of you. So, but basically when you're looking at the list of heavyweight fighters that Verdum's got to go up against, you start going, man. For me, I look okay. Cain Velasquez, can you beat him in a rematch? Maybe. We don't know. Steve Miocic, I probably would go. If you ask me to bet, and when I'm looking at these, I'm not doing a exact fight analysis. I'm just looking at them off the top of my head, thinking about which both fighters bring to the table, who I put money on. Just off the top of my head, without going into too much detail of stylistically, who brings what to the table and what they would do and how I think it would play out. I'd probably just put my money on Steve Miocic. Alistair Overeem already holds a win over him. I forget how many years ago that was, but he holds a win over him. It was in 2011, so it was 5 years ago. Junior Dos Santos holds a win over him. That one was a little bit longer ago. That one was in 2008. Andre Arlovski, he matches up good with Arlovski. I'd probably put my money on Verdum if it was him versus Arlovski. Travis Brown, I probably would put my money on Verdum. Barnett, I probably put my money on Verdum. Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt would be interesting. I don't know about Mark Hunt. Yeah, I probably would put my money on. Yeah, I'd want to say Verdum. But, I think did he fight? I think he fought Mark Hunt. He knocked him out with a knee, which was surprising. Cause I thought I was like, well, he's definitely got to take him down. Let's look it up and see. Oh, yeah, that was his last fight before Cain Velasquez. Yep, knees and punches. I thought so. I think he fought Mark Hunt. So yeah, I put my money on him over Mark Hunt, which I guess would be a good bet since he's beat him once already. Frank Mir, I probably put my money on him, but the bottom five of the heavyweight division, I definitely could see him handling. The top five though, I'm like, Rothwell and Arlovski maybe, but Overeem's got to win. Miocic, I bet on Miocic. Dos Santos, I'm betting on Dos Santos. It just makes for an interesting matchup. So the heavyweight division right now is kind of in a weird position. The guy that can beat, there's a lot of guys behind Cain Velasquez that can beat Verdum, but there's not very many people behind Cain Velasquez that can beat Cain Velasquez. So it makes it very interesting for the heavyweight division because you go, well, if Verdum holds on to the belt, then who knows where the belt's going. But if Cain wins the belt back, well, then it puts everything back in order. So it's like a weird. It would be more exciting if Cain Velasquez loses for fans because then it's a toss up of where's the belt going. If Cain wins it though, you kind of go, Cain's got it back on lock. It ain't going nowhere. So this ran a little bit longer than I expected it to run, but that was just my thoughts on everything that I'm looking at with the heavyweight division. So tell me what you think. Leave the comments below, and we'll see what happens with the heavyweight division after the rematch.